y'all. I am so excited to be pressing record today because I am joined by some fellow faculty members of the Digital Community Building Cohort. And we talk often, and I was like, yo, we should just press record on half of our conversations. Not like we are solving all of the world's problems, but I think there's a lot of discussions and resources that we can be openly sharing out there, especially right now as we sprint to the fall semester and into this next period of the pandemic. My name's Josie Ahlquist. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so lucky to be able to be the facilitator, the ringleader, gatherer of the Digital Community Building Cohort, which is enrolling for the fall program. And when I thought of who are the other amazing human beings out there that I would want to build a program with, it was the rest of the very amazing people on the screen who serve as different faculty member for this program. And again, I know right now there's a lot of challenges. The last year and a half has already been tough, but word on the street this fall may actually be tougher. And that's why it's so important not to go at this alone and to have support. And even if that means just checking out our conversation to see how it could maybe help you where you are today. So as a means to get introductions going of the faculty team, I also stumbled upon a little article that gave me pause. I am a lifelong learner. I could probably go get 4 different degrees, which I've been told by my partner I should really not do. Because I've got the doctorate, I should be good. But the popularity of social media manager position is quite relevant and increasing, but there's some programs now that are coming out as masters in social media. So not just the bachelor's, but you can go get that graduate degree. And a lot of discussions have been going around on Twitter about the pros, but a lot of cons to this. And so some fiery and fierce conversations that are always happening on Twitter. But I thought it would be an interesting kickoff to this chat to ask y'all, what was your major or majors and where is your alma mater? So Jenny, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So I went to the University of Missouri in Columbia, and I majored in broadcast journalism. And so the first chapter of my career was as a TV reporter and anchor. So I really put my degree to use and was a TV journalist for a while. Yeah.
Awesome. Tyler.
Hello, everyone. Tyler Thomas from the University of Nebraska, where I actually hold 2 degrees from here. So I did advertising and public relations, but in the journalism college. So I still took journalism classes, broadcasting courses. There's now sports media comms classes, which I get to help teach in. And I have a master's degree in higher ed administration, also from the University of Nebraska. So spent a lot of time in the state of Nebraska at advertising agencies and then on campus for the last 9 years.
And rumor is you are advancing your degrees further.
I am. So I am teaching additional classes, both at the University of Nebraska and at Harvard University for the Extension School and Professional Development. But I'm also going to jump on the doctoral train, and hopefully in the next 5 years, it will come to a whole thing stop. But I'll be studying higher ed leadership at the doctorate level, also at the University of Nebraska.
Awesome. Katy.
Well, I'm Katy Spencer Johnson. I got my BA in English. I took a non-traditional route. I had a degree in literature, film, and race, and a minor in women's studies, and ended up in publishing for a while, and then bounced over to higher ed and found a love of marketing and social media.
Oh, the love.
Good love.
Krista.
Hello, I'm Krista. I'm coming to you from the University of Toronto. My alma mater is Wilfrid Laurier University. None of you will know where Waterloo is, maybe, but not Waterloo in the UK. It's Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. It's a very small school, very community engagement kind of school. So I was very, very involved in campus life and just loved it, res life, all that stuff. So I did communications and film studies. And then after I graduated, I got very much into nonprofits and a little bit into film, but then dropped back into universities because I just loved it. And I've actually worked for 3 universities in this province. So University of Toronto being the one that I've been at the most. I think I'm at my 5th or 6th year here, so I'm still loving it.
Awesome. Danielle.
Hello, I'm Danielle Sewell. I'm coming to you from York College of Pennsylvania. I swear I know where I work. I graduated undergrad with a Bachelor's of Arts in English and a minor in photography and graphic design, and then went on to get a dual MA and MFA in creative writing at Wilkes University, also in Pennsylvania. And I could do a whole TED Talk on how I think English and creative writing are a really ideal preparation for a career in marketing, but I will save that for another day. DM me if you're interested. And had a career in marketing, but in different industries, mostly publishing, before I found my way over to higher education, where I've really found a home.
Awesome. And I went to South Dakota State University, double majored in human development and sociology. I've always geeked out so much about why, as humans, we do what we do. And so that makes total sense also asking those questions on social media. So what you didn't hear before we press record is that we were reacting to recent news and updates, which makes being a social media manager nearly impossible, from the graphics that you just ordered to the content you created for next week or for today. And that means, what do we figure out? What does success actually look like when so many individuals I find that are drawn to this work? We want to do great work. We might also be a little bit of perfectionists and planners. So y'all coming with years of experience as well as just experience through this pandemic. What can we learn as social media managers right now as we approach the fall, and how we can define success that's realistic and sustainable?
I think the one thing that helps me stay focused and grounded, especially if things get a little rocky or when things get really exciting, is just always going back to what is our North Star? What is our strategy? What are we trying to accomplish? We might get derailed a little bit because of what's going on, or we might have to adjust. But if we all know where we're trying to go and can trust each other to get there together, that's where I've found a lot of centering. Especially even this week, I had a colleague who was like, "Can you help me with this project?" I was like, "Absolutely." And what is the goal? What are we all working towards? And can we do it together? I think that's the one thing with the social space, regardless of titles and roles and responsibilities. Find those colleagues that you can connect with and see how you're all trying to tackle similar challenges, or how you can tackle a challenge together. I think that helps teams of 1 and teams of 20, build trust and actually get things done. And be okay with redefining what success looks like, what you decide today and what you decide in a few weeks, because I think success is going to be rolling, and we're going to have some, interval deadlines or some interval goals, but be okay with that adjustment. But find those connections on campus too, so that you can roll with other people. The stress is a lot less if you can enjoy it with other people.
I have to piggyback on that, because I actually had a moment today that I kind of found my purpose helping other people that know nothing about social, actually. And I think that's important, to not just be in your own world all the time and to nitpick yourself and why things are not going out on time or not going out the way you want them. And then you realize that there are people that don't have social media at all, and they need to be reached with the information in a different way, or you need to teach them why social media is important. So I had a moment today where I was actually working with our vaccine clinic, because they're having some trouble getting people in the door still, and we're reaching like pretty high vaccine percentages in Canada, which is amazing, but we're still really ramping it. And I just closed my laptop after work today, and I was like, yes, we are part of these efforts. We are part of pandemic efforts. This these vaccine clinics will not be around, hopefully, in a year. And we're going to be able to look back at all the social media efforts that we've done to be able to spread the word. And even though it's super, super difficult at times and exhausting, and you can reach a lot of burnout, we're going to be able to look back at this like body of work that no one beyond us, like this generation of social media managers, has ever done. And for me, that just gives me a lot of purpose and a lot of hope.
That was amazing perspective. I needed that today. Thank you.
Same. I think looking back at what we've done and taking the time to do that is so important, and something that I certainly forget to do from time to time. So I'm glad you gave us that reminder. My team has had a unofficial motto for the past year or so of progress, not perfection. So I think that has been kind of our guiding light as we make plans and plan to be flexible, knowing that things will shift and change, and that we might not get to where we thought we were going to get or do everything that we thought we were going to do over the next semester, but thinking that the goal is to get a little better this semester than we were last semester, and hopefully next semester is a little better than this semester, and that way we keep moving forward. But it's important to take the time to look back at everything we've accomplished and where we've been and where we're getting to and where we want to get to, so we can appreciate that. So I love Kristas' sentiment. I think that was great.
Yeah, I mean, accepting that flexibility. Tyler used the word rolling or roll, as well as looking at, well, what are metrics that you don't normally track, like that conversation that you had with the vaccine clinic. Like, that's not digital data that maybe you would normally report, but that will make a wide impact, right? Like you had noted. So looking for other means to make success meaningful. Okay, so tomorrow is August. Probably by the time I release this, it'll be August. And that is a bad word in higher education and many other industries. Or just let's talk about planning content, period, whether it's next week or in 2 months. Based on your experience, what you've learned in this, dark place that we have been in, how are you already planning content differently, as well as campaigns as we move forward flexibly?
I can start. I think being aware of virtual and digital burnout. So, thinking through some of our virtual events that have always been virtual, and thinking through how can we change it up this year or continue to pivot some of those events that we've done previously in virtual spaces and kind of appeal to a wider audience, or an audience that's been a little tired of Zoom, although I know we're recording this on Zoom, but, kind of pivoting and exploring breakout rooms or different ways to innovate in the virtual spaces as we've done in the past year.
Tyler said, I think always know where your North Star is. And that really resonated with me. At MIT, like our messaging priorities are basic, like high level strategy has not changed in a long time, right? There are just messaging priorities that we've had for years. And it's nice to be able to know them in the back of my hand and then add to them and adjust as you need. And of course, this last year and a half have been more adjusting than ever. And looking at the year ahead, a lot of our communication priorities are more internal. They're really trying to get to a different audience and really solidifying that community aspect, right? You're really trying to talk to your people and making sure your people get the right messages. So for me, it's always nice that I have those messaging priorities. I feel solid with them, and then as new message, like campaigns and messaging arise, you just kind of weave them in and adjust as necessary. And I don't anymore, it scares me to plan too far in advance, because the week something launches is the week something awful will happen. And so for me, I don't think, one thing it hasn't been such exact like campaigns it's more like general ideas and themes, and we kind of like flow, and it's a lot of boring stuff, right? But sometimes I feel like there's comfort in the boring stuff, where, I'm not having to jump at every shiny new object that is, held in front of us. Yes. So I know it's not a very flashy answer, and but I think like knowing your North Star and staying true to it, I think is really important right now.
Yeah, I think to build on that too, and I think it goes back to what Kristas said earlier, is like celebrate the work you get done. I mean, I've always been like, oh, we have to do all of this COVID specific work or campaign specific work and get everything else done. Well, celebrate the work you can get done and pace yourself, because there's going to be more probably. And it's okay if things aren't 100%, in my opinion, on the timelines that you have initially established. Those were guardrails. Be okay to be flexible and adjust that. But even if the content never gets out, celebrate it, talk about it with your team. What parts can you pull? We had some content this year that we held for an entire year, and we edited it slightly and then shared it, and it still worked out. Like almost all of it still made sense. To like Jenny's point, if the messaging is still structured around your North Star and around your key points, it doesn't hurt to hold it a little bit. And that's why when we try to create content, unless it's an event or something, we try to be a little evergreen, knowing that at any point something could disrupt your normal content. So don't just completely throw it away, or even if you can't use it, celebrate it, especially if you have a team member who's worked a lot on it. I think some of the best work never sees the light of day, but it doesn't mean it can't be exciting and celebrated. And then figure out how you can learn from it. What pieces, parts, what can you do with it to leverage at some other time when things are maybe a little bit less busy or chaotic or stressful, or any of those kind of things that impacted why you couldn't share it when you wanted to.
Well, I don't know if it was because I did yoga this morning, but I'm just hearing lots of physical manifestations of the conversation, rolling, flowing. This idea of flowing, though, feels like more gentle and intentional. And that's what I love this conversation is getting to. It's not just strategy, which sometimes can feel heavy, like that North Star, that purpose. And Jenny, I loved how you said there was almost like a ease to know that we have this core grounding to go back to, knowing that next week there is going to be a different fire to put out, or a crisis, or a challenge. And so when we think about the fall, and when I said this fall might be more challenging than last, there's a variety of reasons for that. Like those that are fully going back on campus, now we might be expected to both show up in our offices, on campus events, and stay as much virtually engaged as we did before. But also something I'm starting to see, and it's good and bad, right? Leadership now sees the value, or they're starting to, but that also might mean they want to know more about what you're doing, but still maybe aren't as knowledgeable still of what you're doing. So one theme that came up a lot in the cohort from the spring, almost every workshop and session, participants were asking, like, I'm trying to involve or I'm having to like advocate up, educate up. It's like managing up from the president to just their director. So is there any encouragement or guidance you could give at this time, knowing that leadership might be at a variety of different places in their involvement or education and social, that might be helpful for people to hear right now planning for fall?
I have a kind of very simple tool. I actually just created a report today, but they're almost like mini recovery type reports that are only by email. So it's basically engagement, impressions, reach, or any other highlight of recovery type posts. So we'll do kind of like a total of these past posts, and then we'll talk about like if there's any highlights. So for example, there was one post for a safe return to campus that got over 1,000 link and bio clicks. So for us, like over 1,000 clicks on one post is like fantastic. So how can you kind of break out your little wins, put them in an email very quickly, and shoot it up to your director and say like, this is definitely good to be shared? For me, that report was asked of me. So I know already like, that's really important to them. So think about the things that you've been asked to report on, And then how can you kind of report around that ask? So if there's anything that has to do with that request, that might be also an interesting, like, I don't know, qualitative, you got a number of comments or people are responding to recovery in a certain way. You can report that up and you're going to show them that you actually understand the ask. You understand the task.
I think the most simple thing to build on that too is just do something. I mean, I've always been resistant of like, oh, am I doing reports just to do reports, or do I want to add in more work in an already busy week? You have to do something because the people above you don't know what to ask for in some times. In some capacities, they don't know what to ask for. So like Kristas said, you get some opportunities to highlight the work that is working, the things that have, maybe didn't perform, or, you get to decide what that looks like before they ask for it. Or if they ask for things, tell that really good story. But over the last year, we've increased our reporting very intentionally to make sure that the right people know what's going on. And that has helped collaboration. That's helped get resources and helped organize things. I now don't have to advocate as high in certain meetings because I have other people in the room who are doing it. So even if you start at the smallest thing, like Kristas said, at the end of the week, tell your boss 3 things that worked. One thing that worked, because then they also know how much time things take. Because I think you have to start laying that foundation for human resources, dollar resources, what's possible in a week and what's not. It helps you organize priorities. But even if it's just like, here's 3 wins of the week and a loss, I think we should also embrace the things that maybe didn't work as well. What did we learn from? Because then we don't get asked to do that later. Like, hey, try that thing. And you're like, well, I've been telling you for 3 weeks, it didn't work yet. And it allows you to justify maybe why you wouldn't do it or get the support you need to make other adjustments. But start really small with those quick wins. And that to me helps even the most simple ways of which to educate up, lead up, but also just advocate for yourself and the work that you're doing. Also at the end of the year, you'll have things you can submit to, like awards things, like here's all the things that worked. Here's some great awards that maybe I want to apply for. And you've built a foundation on that.
And I think the biggest thing for me is the differentiation between internal reports and external reports. So there are the reports for myself that I do and for my team, which are very different from the reports that we send to the VP and president level, especially outside of the marketing communications thing. I think the temptation is to just like, I did this report, let me send it. I did it all. But I mean, anyone who's sat through last session of Digital Community Builders knows I'm a little bit of a data nerd. So I get really excited and kind of collect a lot of stuff and have a lot of like formulas populating. And I realized that for people who like don't have a full understanding of social media and the back end of it and the insights and how things are pulled, like that was incredibly overwhelming and didn't actually tell them anything substantial related to their goals. So following that kind of communication 101, know thy audience rule and making sure that I'm customizing things. So I'm taking the key takeaways and summarizing those in an email and making sure that if I need to provide some kind of a visual assist, that I'm able to do that and can screenshot. So when I say, we did an Instagram stories campaign that had X number of impressions and X number of interactions, that I'm attaching a screenshot of what one of those posts looked like. So they know what I'm talking about, because a lot of our executive leadership is not on Instagram frequently or doesn't use stories. So I think sometimes those reports outside of the department are as much education about the work that we're doing as they are information about what's been effective or not effective and how things are going. So that tailoring things based on the audience a little bit, I think is like the biggest takeaway that I've learned over the last several years.
I think one thing that has really helped me is that I've learned to use the language that that person keeps on repeating to you. So if you're trying to earn the trust of your boss, or maybe it's someone at the executive level and they keep on, and you have you are able to listen to them speak or hear their concerns or what their priorities are. I've always really, really taken like down to the letter, like what they've said, and a lot of times I'll quote them back in an email of something that they're concerned with or a priority they have. And it kind of like does a couple of things, right? It builds on their ego, because people like to be quoted. You know that they're listening to them, and then you're providing content about that issue or priority or concern, or like that they have, and saying, I heard you speak, in the last update or whatever, and here are some of the things that I'm hearing or seeing about X or Y, or maybe there's a certain leader has a very competitive, like they're very competitive with a peer institution. So maybe you can kind of, check that box for them a little bit and say, gosh, we've grown this much more, or like, we've got more follow. I mean, these are they might be, things that are a little bit vanity metrics or at the beginning, but once you show them that you're listening, and once you have their attention, once they start really taking the time to read your emails, and then and trusting you and wanting to hear what you have to tell them, that's where I feel like you could really do some influencing, right? But I think off the bat, I always learn what is important, to that leader, how they speak. I use the same language that they do, and it's always helped me to gain trust, to move the relationship along.
And to that point, everyone had excellent points, which I totally, absolutely agree with. I think being able to align it to their goals, right? So thinking through what is the executive leader's goals, and how can I make social media seem like an asset for that goal? So it's not about marketing goals. It's not about even what I care about in terms of marketing metrics. It's your goal, and then how is our marketing supporting that? Making, as Jenny said, making it about them. As much as it is about, the marketing efforts that you're doing on behalf of your organization.
And I think a key thing on that alignment too is, if you're building the trust when it's calm, when it gets a little bit more crazy or down the road, you already have that trust, you have that relationship. So when there's additional things that are either needed, or they are able to, like Danielle said, just forward along what you've given them, or you've already started building those rungs in that ladder to where you're not like, in a fire. And I think that's really helpful, because then you just kind of lay the groundwork for your own work. And I think you get away from busy work, or people providing really good intentional ideas without directing you to do something that you're like, that won't work, or I don't think that's the best angle. The reporting of what's working and what's not working allows that trust to then hopefully direct you when you're making your next big decision, or small decision, any decision that's being made.
And if I know that I spoke earlier, but if I could just build on what Tyler said, it's when you open those doors, when it's calm, that's when you can sort of directly speak to the important people and maybe keep things from happening. Like this past year and a half, I feel like a lot of my successes are in the things that I stopped from happening, or influenced to change it in a way, because I was listening and monitoring on our channel so much, so I sort of had an ear with our audience. And I think a lot, it wasn't sort of what I created, it was what I stopped from. Some of my biggest successes are what I stopped from happening, and it's only because those channels were open from those times where things are calm. Yeah,
that's great. Well, you can tell that the faculty team are pretty primed and excited and well-versed and experienced in especially this advocating and educating up. Again, it comes up often in the cohort. So it is a common experience. And that is the goal of the cohort, is to provide education, but also support. Some of this stuff is sticky, and you just need to know that you can drop a quick question or show up on a Zoom in a workshop or a gathering and get some discernment around whatever you're facing that day. But we also know this last year and a half and this next fall is going to be tough. Like, that's also part of this work, is ever changing. And social media managers especially are always navigating boundaries and may need a little bit of a morale boost, because let's be honest, the summer has not been chill. Even vacations and PTO days may not have done it, and we're going in maybe not as quite refueled as we had been in previous years. So if y'all could maybe give a little morale boost, if there's a message, emoji, like play out a GIF for me right now. Like what is something that you want to make sure listeners who are tasked with social media, and or if a leader is listening, that could advocate for those that are tasked with social, that might be helpful to hear right now as we move through August?
Well, I'll start with a little bit of a pitch for what we're all part of. And I think I speak for all of the faculty members that were a part of this, because we really see the value in what this program can do for people and people in social media in higher ed. I think if I had looked back at myself like 3 years ago when I was just starting in my position, and I didn't know a lot of people like at other partner institutions or even like across the network, and I'm trying to do my job, and you're just always trying to do the best that you can, but you don't have the resources up front. And I feel like having this as sort of some professional development, especially now, to be able to advocate to create some space for yourself to learn, and also beyond the learning, just to be able to vent. Like, I think that this group is also a place where you can bring some of the issues you have, talk to some experts that aren't related to your college or university, and come back with some industry level thinking to be able to problem solve better. So I just think that that's so valuable. My morale boost for anyone going back in person, that's its whole other thing. It's like going back in person and getting your life back in some kind of routine. I actually don't even have the directive to come back yet, so I'm kind of waiting in the wings, so all of you can kind of tell me how it goes. But I think the morale boost would be, take your summer, like have your summer. I don't know when you'll be tuning into this, but use your days, like get outside if you can, like take your lunch. I've started to really make that a priority for myself, especially in therapy too, to just get back into a better routine. I feel like I've kind of fallen off. So if you can, just take the time for yourself, and also know that your school is not your responsibility. Like, your job is your responsibility, but the institution and what's happening to the institution is not on you. I have trouble with that at times because you're the one behind the channels and you're being yelled at. But just remember that they're not yelling at you and it's not just on you to solve all the problems. You can be as much of a conduit of change as you can, but it's not on you to direct and manage all the change yourself.
Can we just slow clap for Krista? So good. I mean, I'll add on, I guess. I don't want to follow that, but I guess I've got a piece for the leaders and a piece for the digital community managers. For the leaders, particularly those who maybe you are overseeing someone who's doing digital community building, but that's not your role, or it's not something that you know so well or so intimately as the person doing it. I have found it so helpful when leaders approach the work that we do with curiosity over criticism, even if there is a criticism or something is not going the way that we would ideally want that outcome to be. It can be such a complex thing and so much more challenging or time consuming or complicated than it looks on the outside in a lot of ways. And usually if something happens either with an ideal outcome or a not so ideal outcome, there are any number of factors going into what created that outcome. So I would say it's always, for me, I really, really appreciate when instead of coming to me and saying like, why is everyone in the comments section angry? Someone says like, do you have any ideas about how we might communicate that more effectively? Or something like that. Curiosity is, I think, much more helpful and much more productive productive and also helps boost morale. And usually in these roles, that certainly I think all the faculty here, we get really excited about speaking about the work that we're doing and the communities that we're building. And we're always happy to discuss that. So it just makes us happy if someone asks and is interested. So I think that's always helpful to be interested and curious about the work that's being done by your digital community builders. For the digital community builders themselves, don't ignore the likes and only look at the comments. The comment section is an evil, brutal, dark space a lot of the time. But I have found, and I think we all do this, but I'll have a stream of like some negative comments and I get stressed out looking at it. And I feel like personally responsible in some way, even though I'm not, for all of these unhappy people. And you want to make it better, or you're trying to think about it could have gone differently. And there's like 300 likes on the post, but the 10 people who commented were particularly passionate about it enough to say something. But the people who liked it enough, like, it certainly didn't ruin their day, but they had like a net positive reaction to it. So I mean, usually the ratios of those likes are a lot higher than the negative comments, and they're really easy to ignore because it's just like that little blue thumbs up in the corner. But like, that's a nice thing. Appreciate your little blue thumbs ups in the corner. That's my PSA for the day.
I think go ahead, Katie.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, I think seeking the positive reframe in everything. So whether you're, a manager trying to understand like why a social reaction is the way it is, or you're, a community builder who's trying to like get through, a comment storm, like there is a positive reframe in everything if you can just find it. So, and then Tyler.
And there it definitely is, Katie. I think, and if you can't find it, tell other people and we'll help you find it. Like that's the one thing I think, if it sounds very cliche, but like you're not alone in this work. We're all doing it just in different pockets. So that's what I love about the community, is that it is a community that can lean on you, but also hold you accountable, help you navigate the world as you need help. But I think the one thing that I'm planning on for myself and with my team as we all kind of reset for fall is just pick your pace. We're all going to have to pace ourselves, and we're going to have to figure out what that pace is. We were probably all in the very unhealthy pace over the last 14 months. And we have to figure out what that pace is going to be that's sustainable for you. Talk about it with your boss, talk about it with your colleagues, like figure out what that is and adjust to that. Because I think the hard thing is we want things to be done in a sprint, and it's not going to happen. It's going to be a marathon. It's going to be continued. So find your pace, adjust your pace, and then talk about it with others. I think that's always helpful, is when you have people hold you accountable for what you're expecting to do. Take your vacation when you need your vacation, set your pace, take your breaks. But I think if you can realize that the whole world doesn't have to happen at once, that's something I'm constantly battling with personally. But if I can pace myself in and out of these lanes, then I can hopefully get my best work done and not lose focus. But if we're just sprinting out every lane, we're going to miss things. It's not going to be healthy. So if you can pace yourself or find your own pace, and that's my kind of morale boost on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to that and say, like, please remember you're not alone. Like, I think in January, I was not in a really good place, and I had to make some decisions. And the big one that I set for myself is, I'm going to keep to my boundaries. I started getting really fierce about my boundaries. And what I learned about that is that people will respect that. They respect you more for that, and I know that a lot of social media managers feel like they're not in positions of power, and so they always have to say yes. But I've really had to learn to say no to some things too, and I am so glad. Like I've learned that I rarely say no, but I have said no to a couple of things, and I was so glad I did in the end. And let me just add an anecdote. We were in a meeting, and we were trying to go back and forth on when to schedule something because something needed some attention. And my vice president, my boss's boss, said, Jenny, if you need be, schedule it on a Saturday. And I just looked at him and I said, no, I am not. I said, I'm not doing that to you. And it wasn't so much, it was both of us, right? But it was also him, because I knew that he was flat out busy and he probably already had 3 meetings on a Saturday. But I looked at it as, no, I am not doing that to you. And I got so many people like chatting me, like direct messaging me and saying, you got, good for you. You know, like everyone, you know, DM'd me and gave me an atta girl. And so people will respect you, you know, and they will respect your bound. I'm not saying don't be obstinate. I'm just saying you need to keep your boundaries for you, for your wellness. So those are my messages.
Well, again, why I also was so excited to work with each of these humans, professionals, communicators is really the ethos and the purpose isn't just the work, it's the people behind it and looking out for each other. And having that support system and we have been each other's support system since we kicked off the digital community cohort last spring of 2021. And because of its success and that challenges continue to come, we decided to offer it again in the fall. Obviously, this video will be available until the internet goes away. But if you are listening to this before August 12th, there is a chance you could still be part of this cohort. It is a small group program that runs 3 months that includes gatherings like this of support. We share our challenges, our celebrations, and troubleshooting, as well as workshops with each of the faculty that you see on the screen who offer a flow state. I'm going to use that, Jenny, to building digital community, that it can be purposeful and you can show up wherever you are, how you are with the skills you have or don't have, and that you're going to be guided, not just the end of the 3 months, like we're not going anywhere. Again, we all want to see you successful. We most likely will continue to offer the program. So again, if you're watching this later in the fall, be on the lookout for the potential spring cohort. But also, if this isn't a fit for you at all, please do follow each of these faculty members on Twitter, LinkedIn. They are a constant source of resources and really do want to be a support system for wherever your work is situated, whether you're in student affairs or central communications or enrollment. Because the program also has folks from all different pockets of campus, as well as other industries. So know that you don't have to serve on a campus to join in on the fun. Of course, you can reach out to me if you have questions. And of course, I want to be cheering for you as well. I do hope just this video alone was a morale boost for you. And we'd love to hear how it was helpful. So for now, I want to thank Danielle, Kristas, Katy, Tyler, Jenny. Y'all are just amazing humans and marketing professionals. And I'm so excited to be working with you again. And to you watching, listening, I hope you are well. And this was resourceful, and hopefully we'll maybe work together very soon.